and welcome to another fabulous episode of Snowed In with Mrs. Colley. Mrs. Colley's class, where we're currently on another fantastic snow day. It is quite awful out there, and I don't know if any of you have had the chance to go out there in the morning and do that thing called driving. It was quite awful. Got the phone call that our school was closed 10 minutes down the road, and I barely was able to turn around and come back. So today, Kevin and I, say hi, Kevin, we are going to be talking about this wacky weather we're getting right now. So today's topic is wacky weather, hail, sleet, freezing rain, and what in the world is the difference? Well, good to see people joining in. Today, like I just said, we're going to be talking about this crazy winter weather we're getting here in Minnesota and Wisconsin and the Dakotas and parts of Canada, and spring will eventually come, I promise. And before I start, if there's anyone out there who wants to create a quick 10-second weird little MP3 intro to this really crazy, strange, awkward show, I can't promise you'll be famous. I can't promise you're going to make $1 million, but I could promise that I could use it as my intro to start the show, and then you could throw it on your resume someday as you making some very cool, intro to a really cool TV show that stars a teacher teaching science. So you want to send those MP3 intro musics my way? That would be fantastic. Other than that, let's get started with freezing rain, hail, and sleet. What's the difference? We're going to start today with talking about freezing rain. Freezing rain! What is it? Well, it's rain. It's liquid. It's not a solid. It comes down as rain, just like normal rain, except it's been super cooled. What? What is that? What is that you say? Super cooled? It is not super cool. Like, yeah, super cool. No, it's not cool in any way. It's just super cold. It has been super cool to the point where that it is technically already frozen, but it's still liquid. It has gone through a temperature below its freezing point, but it's gone through that temperature so fast it hasn't had time to freeze yet. And what happens when it hits the ground? It freezes on impact. That's right. Freezing rain literally freezes on impact because it has been super cooled. Now it freezes on impact to anything it touches. It could touch the ground. It could touch your head. It could touch the trees, the power lines. Anything it touches, suddenly you have a coating of ice. This isn't a huge deal when it comes in very small amounts. But what some Minnesotans have found out from this storm that we've gotten today is that it can come in large amounts and cause lots of problems. When it comes in larger amounts and causes problems, it's called an ice storm. So it's no longer a snowstorm. Now they call it an ice storm. No, ice storms are not caused by Elsa. You got to let that one go, guys. It can do significant damage. Sorry, I can't get over my last joke. I'm really not that funny, but I think I am sometimes. It can cause significant damage, which when I say damage, I mean you've got a coating of ice on everything. That can already cause issues. One, you're driving on the road. You've got coating of ice on the road. It's obviously going to cause travel problems. Two, if you have a coating of ice on your electrical wires outside, that's going to cause power outages. It's also possibly going to cause electrical fires, which are pretty scary. It is also going to cause issues to trees. You coat enough ice on those trees, the weight of that ice is going to cause those branches and sometimes whole trees to just crash and fall to the ground. Now, ice storms are not considered very violent storms. They're just typically rain and snow storms. But the damage to property, to crops, can cause a lot of money and actually can cause, can cause lots of problems. It is actually the most, Yes, I threw it on the floor. It's one of the most expensive natural disasters or natural occurrences that happen in Canada. So a shout out to Alyssa. I see you there. Definitely happens in Canada a lot. All right, we are done with freezing rain, thank goodness. We didn't get any of it, at least in Schaefer, where I'm in right now, but we did get something else this morning that we're going to talk about next, and that is sleet. What is sleet? Well, depends on where you're from. If you are from the UK and Ireland, you know sleet as rain and snow mixed. If you are from the US or Canada, you call sleet ice pellets. It's like little ice pellets that come down. So if the weather forecasters are saying we'll get sleet today, it depends on where you live for depending on what you're going to get. Because of this, the National Meteorological Association has decided that they now start calling it ice pellets when they're in Canada or the US, because it's much easier to know, okay, we're getting ice pellets today. That's what we're getting. We're not getting anything else. Because rain, snow, and ice pellets, if you're confusing them all up and you're all calling them sleet, everyone's going to have a different idea of what's coming down and you won't know what to prepare for. Now, sleet, we got tons of it here today. It was so exciting. I don't know if you've ever gotten sleet before. I thought it was awesome. So awesome. Maybe I'm more excited about sleet than I should be. But it's really neat, and it forms in a really neat way. It starts off as snowflakes. Snow is coming down the clouds, and it's coming down, and it hits some warmer air, and it melts. It turns into rain. Now, it's not super warm. This isn't like 80 degrees hanging out in Florida, balmy weather. No, it's just warm enough to cool it or to warm itself up to turn back into liquid. And then it hits a blast of frigid air almost as it's hit before it hits the ground, and that causes it to turn into this clear crystal ice. Literally, little chunks of ice pellets are raining down on us. A lot of it came down today. It was fantastic. I'm really way too excited about sleet. But it was so cool because it looked like little crystal sprinkles were falling from the sky, and they were neat. Now, they're not sprinkles, they're clear ice. I think I'm just hungry. Sprinkles, donuts. I'm going to get a donut after this. Clear ice crystals are just one layer. It's not a hailstone. They're really, really small. It's just a little water droplet that's been instantly frozen. Very small, not going to do a lot of damage. The big problems that they're going to cause if it melts and then refreezes. So it's landed on the ground, it's a little ice crystal, it's going to melt and then maybe it refreezes, then you're going to have some issues with coatings on ice. But otherwise, sleet comes down, it's just like snow except little pieces of ice. You'll hear a tap, tap, tapping sound when it's hitting things. Like, consider if you drop rice on the floor, that's pretty much what it sounds like. Don't drop rice on the floor just to hear the sound. Just wait for sleet to show up. It can be a little annoying to experience, like if you're outside trying to feed the birds and then the sleet is hitting you in the face. A little annoying, but really not super damaging. It's not going to cause you any ill health effects. Biggest issue is it's certainly not going to help the flooding. We have a lot of flooding going on in Minnesota right now, and this is only going to add to it because it's frozen water, and when it melts, it's going to be a lot. So let's move on to the last topic of our conversation today, and that is hail. Hail is a summer chunk of ice that falls from the sky. So our freezing rain and our sleet, typically winter, actually not typically, winter precipitation. Hail comes in the summer. And why is that? Because it needs warm air. Now I'm talking tropical 80 Florida vacation kind of air. Well, maybe not 80 degrees, but warm air. Hail! What is hail? It's balls of larger, irregular lumps of ice. Yes, consider it's going to come out of thunderstorms. Now, yes, I didn't have a yellow marker, so we have red lightning today. Very cool, I know. It needs warm air to form. It's a product of thunderstorms, and it requires very, very heavy, strong winds. Now, the coolest thing about the hail is that it could come down as one clump or several clumps all together. That's when it gets really dangerous. But we'll go into more on that in a moment. And it can also cause severe damage, not just little itty bits of damage like, oh, I guess I'm going to coat a tree and a tree will lose its limb, but severe damage to property, crops, and people. How does hail form? Well, take a look at my nifty, fantastic little spiffy drawing over here of a thundercloud that looks like the Sorting Hat from Harry Potter. All right, you have your fantastic little raindrop right over there. See that fantastic little raindrop? As it's falling to the ground, it's going to get whoosh, pushed back up into the cloud from those high level winds. Those upper level winds are going to go whoosh and push that little raindrop back up into the top of the cloud. Now at the top of the cloud, it's very cold. And those high winds, they cool off, and that little water droplet turns and freezes into a little ice crystal. Now now you're saying this is exactly like hail, or it is hail. It's exactly like sleet. No. Sleet hit the cold air as it was coming down and then drops straight down. This is being pushed up into the cloud. It freezes and then has to come back down again. And as it comes back down again, it hits that warm air again. And that ice crystal is actually coated with another layer of water, of rain. It gets coated with another layer of water, and then it gets sucked right back up that cloud again, and then another layer of ice forms on top of it. And it can do this over and over and over again several times. Every time a new layer forms, a layer of that fantastic ice, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. That's a pretty big hailstone. If that were to fall, that would hurt something. But they start really small, and those layers upon layers, they keep growing. Next time you have hail happen in your life, which it probably will if you live in Minnesota or Wisconsin or Canada or the Dakotas, next time hail hits you, find one of the hailstones and see if you can break it open. You're going to see concentric circles of the ice that is formed around it. Very cool. Now, hail's got a lot of other neat things going for it, besides the fact that it's pretty dangerous. The heaviest hailstorm, or heaviest hail chunk that has ever been found and recorded, now found and recorded, like officially recorded by official meteorologists, would be from Bangladesh on April 14th of 1986, and it weighed 2.5 pounds. Now you might say, that's not a lot, but 2.5 pounds, I mean, that's heavier than my guy here. That's a decent weight. The largest diameter, so that's about half, largest diameter of a circle, was 7.9 inches. 7.9 inches straight across. And that was from Vivian, South Dakota in July 23rd, 2010. The circumference all the way around it, the largest was 18.74 inches. It's like what? Keep going, something like this. Huge. That came down in Aurora, Nebraska on June of 2003. The greatest average of hail precipitation ever in the world is in Kenya. It's not here. It's not Minnesota. It's not Wisconsin. It was Kenya, in Kericho, Kenya, which has an average hailstorm amount of averaging hail 50 days a year. They get hail on an average of 50 days a year. And they've also set the world record for having the most hail in 1 year, which is 132 days. I don't want hail for 132 days. I just don't. It doesn't sound interesting to me. Now, a couple of things to know about hail. The Meteorological Service of Canada considers a storm a severe thunderstorm if a hail that is falling has a size of 2 centimeters, or about 0.8 of an inch. In the U.S., they think, nah, we can handle hail tougher than that, bigger than that, we can take it. So the U.S. will call a thunderstorm a severe thunderstorm if the hail that is falling is 1 inch in circumference, or not circumference, in diameter, which is also about 2.5 centimeters. That's a decent sized hail chunk. That's about when hail starts actually causing damage. That can be damage to crops. It will absolutely destroy things like coffee crops. So all you coffee drinkers out there, hail is bad. Soybeans, the crops that I saw a little heart go up. Someone liked that comment about coffee. I hear ya. Coffee's good. And there was another one. So crops that are not tough. Corn can take most hailstones. Corn's pretty tough, but like the soybeans, the smaller plants, if any of you are like into strawberries, blueberries, berries, hail's gonna pretty much, bigger chunks of hail are gonna damage those crops. Now, because of the severe updrafts in these thunderstorms, the pushing up of that air that forms the hailstones, because of those, these are considered the severe thunderstorms because of those severe winds. Not just because of the hail, because those severe updrafts are also what cause tornadoes. So hail and tornadoes a lot of time go hand in hand. Not saying that every storm that has a tornado will have hail or vice versa, but they are formed by basically wind, the same thing. There's a lot of difficulty actually to identify on radar that the hail is coming down, and so because of that, weather spotters are still actually used to determine whether or not hail is coming down and what size. So the National Weather Service and NOAA are actually holding weather spotter courses for anyone who is 18 or over. Go check it out on NOAA.org. NOAA.org, and you could be a trained weather spotter, and you could be reporting back going, I have hail right here, and I've got a picture of it, and it measures 1 inch in diameter, and you could be a trained weather spotter, and that would be awesome. A little different than a storm chaser, but just as cool. Now, two more facts to know before we sign off for the day. 1, hail is Canada's most expensive weather hazard. Not second, not one of, it is the most expensive weather hazard in Canada. So not just sleet, not freezing, hail. Hail is the number 1. And storms actually cause accumulations of hail sometimes. Sometimes it's not just a couple hail balls falling down, but sometimes it's actually, it accumulates like snow, and it gets pretty deep. For instance, in 2015 in Denver, Colorado, a severe thunderstorm just hung over the city for about 2 hours. The system stalled, it didn't move, and it just caused an influx of hail, and the hail kept dropping. And the hail, they measured it, was a foot deep. By the time the hail stopped, the storm moved on, the hail was a foot deep, and they had to call in, the big construction crews and the cats and the dump trucks, and they had to actually haul away 30 truckloads, dump truck loads of hail to clear the streets. So hail's pretty fun, pretty dangerous. Now, in a hailstorm, if there's a hailstorm going on, if there's thunderstorm lightning, first of all, you shouldn't be outside. But if you are, definitely watch out for hail. It can do damage, not just to people or not just to things, but people as well. It can do damage to your cars as well. Take out those windows, but honestly, be more worried about you. I know I'm guilty of this. I like to go, oh, cool! Look at the storm! This is awesome! And can you tell I can't wait for spring to happen and the storms to show up? But hail's, it can hurt you. It's pretty dangerous. So that if there's hail around, steer clear of the storm. All right, I think that's all I have today. Oh, no, the best part. I had one more thing, of course, about hail, right? So there's such a thing called hail suppression. Yeah, people since the Middle Ages have been trying to prevent hail from falling. So in Middle Ages time in Europe, people rang church bells and fired cannons in hopes that would prevent the hail from falling down on their villages to prevent damage to crops. And so recently as even 2005, different countries have been doing something called cloud seeding. And so what that is you take a plane up into the air and you fill a rocket or fill artillery shells with some kind of chemical and send it off into the clouds, and when it explodes, it seeds the clouds or plants the clouds with whatever this chemical is in hopes that you're changing the scenario, changing the weather and changing what's in the environment so much that it will prevent certain things from happening. Well, right after World War II, cloud seeding became very popular for the Soviet Union to help with their crops. So they would release silver iodide in clouds by rockets, and apparently they have research, they've done all this research that says, yeah, it prevented hail from killing the crops, and it saved their crops by about 70%. It fixed the hailstorm issues in Russia and the Soviet Union. As of recently, from 1965 to 2005, about 15 countries have tried hail suppression with cloud seeding. Obviously, that was about 13 years ago, so I'm thinking it didn't work as well as they had hoped, because if it did, they'd still be doing it. Or it might not have been completely chemically safe to be releasing all that into a cloud and then have it rain back down on people. Just my thoughts. So that is officially the end of my exciting conversation on hail and freezing rain and sleet. So now you know sleet, little chunks of ice, freezing rain, liquid rain turns to ice, and hail, giant balls of ice that rain from the sky, typically in summer thunderstorms. All right, that's it for me today. I hope you are enjoying your snow day, for those of you who are enjoying snow day. For the rest of us and all the adults who have to do the plowing, good luck. This should be it. It should be spring after this. All right, before I go, if you have any ideas for more of these fun stories, more things you want to hear, more science topics, history topics, math topics, whatever topics you'd like to hear about, leave a comment or send me a message, because I will be doing one of these once a week for the entirety of summer vacation. I'd say more, but I'm crazy busy and I got a 2-year-old, so she doesn't let me get away much. But if you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them. I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye.